Imagine stepping onto a battlefield where your enemy outnumbers you, out-equips you, and is universally feared as the deadliest military machine on the planet. For the outcast warlord Temüjin, this wasn't a hypothetical nightmare. It was a Tuesday. Before he was known to the world as Genghis Khan, he was just a starving exile staring down the Tatar Confederacy, the heavily armored apex predators of the Asian steppe, and the very men who murdered his father with poison. To fight this blood feud head-on was suicide. So, Temüjin didn't fight them. Instead, he engineered a trap so ruthless, it didn't just win the battle, it swallowed an entire civilization alive. Here is how the ultimate underdog weaponized human arrogance to give birth to an empire. The wind howling across the Kerulen River carried the stench of thawing earth and cold iron. On one side of the freezing mud, the Tatars gathered. Picture the terrifying, impenetrable armor of a medieval European knight, multiplied by the sheer, immovable mass of a Roman legion. They were the undisputed heavyweights of the plateau, funded by neighboring dynasties and fighting with heavy lances. Opposite them stood the Mongols under Temüjin. They were outmatched, fighting with the hit-and-run desperation of Apache warriors. To match the Tatar charge in the traditional manner of steppe combat, a grinding clash of forward momentum was tactical suicide. The Mongol line would simply shatter like glass under an anvil. To a conventional warlord, this was a dead end. But to Temüjin, it was a lethal, mechanical puzzle. The local terrain offered no physical choke point, no protective ravine, and no high altitude to blunt a heavy cavalry charge. The open, rolling grass was a flat expanse built for slaughter. If the earth offered no trap, he would have to build one out of his enemy's own ego. He quietly hid thousands of riders behind two low ridges that looked completely insignificant from the valley floor. He understood that the greatest Tatar strength, their absolute, terrifying confidence in their own superiority, could be inverted into their fatal flaw. Down on the plains, a young Mongol outrider gripped his recurve bow, feeling the vibration of 40,000 Tatar horses turning the earth into a live wire. The blast of deep war horns signaled an impending campaign of shock and awe, designed to paralyze a man's spirit before a single arrow took flight. The outrider waited, his heart pounding against his ribs, watching the wall of heavy armor accelerate. He braced for the inevitable, brutal collision, waiting for the order to hold the line and die. But the order never came. Instead, Temüjin orchestrated a feint that defied every law of ancient warfare. Emotion, angry, he issued a draconian decree demanding absolute discipline from his men. When the clash begins, no man is to hold his ground. When the pressure mounts, the vanguard will intentionally collapse. They will act as a living decoy, turning their backs to the enemy to flee. To turn your back on heavy cavalry was a death sentence. It defied every primal instinct of survival. Yet, this was the bedrock of his deadly stratagem. As the drums reached a fever pitch, the Mongol vanguard surged forward, unleashing a brief, kinetic volley of arrows into the Tatar ranks. Steel met iron with a resounding crack. But just as the massive Tatar countercharge accelerated a heavy armored fist ready to punch through the Mongol center, the Mongol line abruptly snapped. The riders shrieked, violently wheeled their unarmored ponies around, and bolted. The Tatar commanders, smelling blood and the promise of an easy massacre, spurred their heavy horses into a frantic pursuit. Emotion, surprised. But deep within the advancing formation, one grizzled Tatar veteran squinted through the dust. He noticed something chilling. The fleeing Mongols were screaming, but their hands on the reins were dead steady. There was no panic in their eyes. But as the Tatar vanguard broke their disciplined formation to chase the fleeing targets across the killing field, blinded by their own bloodlust, they failed to recognize the snare. The retreating Mongols were not scattering in terror. They were moving in a highly orchestrated withdrawal, pulling the galloping Tatars directly into a mechanical meat grinder from which there would be no escape. To a foot soldier, a retreat is a desperate scramble for life. To Temüjin, it was a lethal, high-speed negotiation. The feigned retreat, the Mangudai, is arguably the most dangerous tactical maneuver in military history. If the acting is too poor, the enemy sees the bluff and holds their ground. If the panic becomes real, the army disintegrates and slaughters itself. It requires a paradoxical fusion of absolute chaotic desperation on the surface and cold, Spartangent-like discipline underneath. The retreat was a terrifying, lung-burning sprint with a ticking clock. If the Tatars stopped chasing for even 1 minute, the entire plan would fail. A Mongol rider pressed his face against his pony's mane, arrow shafts hissing past his ears. Behind him, the roar of the Tatar cavalry was a physical force screaming men and the relentless drumming of heavy hooves. But the Mongol vanguard had to ride the razor's edge, staying just close enough to keep the enemy furious, but just far enough ahead to avoid being trampled. The Tatar elite swallowed the bait whole. For them, this was no longer a battle. It was an execution. Their blood boiled with the arrogance of an apex predator hunting wounded prey. They spurred their massive steeds faster, abandoning their rigid, impenetrable formation to claim the heads of the fleeing exiles. They poured across the open grass, a chaotic tidal wave of iron stretching thinner and thinner across the rolling terrain. But in the suffocating dust cloud of the pursuit, the illusion cracked for that same sharp-eyed veteran. Riding near the front of the disorganized vanguard, he looked down at the trampled earth through the choking mist. A fleeing, broken army leaves a chaotic, overlapping mess of hoofprints, discarded weapons, and fallen bodies. But the trail before him was mathematically precise. The Mongol ponies were galloping in perfectly parallel lines. It wasn't a rout, it was a carefully engineered mechanism. Cold panic pierced the veteran's chest as he realized they were riding into an ambush. He desperately pulled hard on his reins, throwing his weight back to halt his massive, armored warhorse. But stopping was no longer an option. He was instantly swallowed by the sheer momentum of 40,000 men screaming for blood. The colossal war machine behind him was operating at maximum throttle, driven purely by blind aggression. To stop in the middle of that avalanche meant being instantly trampled to death by his own comrades. He was trapped in the current, forced to ride headlong into disaster. The tension spiked, but the snare remained veiled by arrogance and dust. Above the chaos, Temüjin's design was unfolding flawlessly. He was not fighting the Tatars' strength, he was weaponizing their endurance against them. A heavy cavalry horse, burdened with thick iron barding and an armored rider, possesses devastating kinetic impact over a short distance. But forced into a prolonged sprint across the open steppe, that armor transforms from a shield into a suffocating, overheating engine. The pursuit dragged on for miles, and those massive biological engines began to fail. The Mongol light ponies, unarmored and bred for relentless endurance, kept pulling the vanguard forward. As the chase stretched across the plateau, the Tatar formation began to fracture. The fastest horses pulled far ahead, while the heavier, overheated mounts lagged behind, their chests heaving, thick foam dripping from their bits. The cohesive, heavy machinery of the Tatar vanguard had been pushed past its operational limits. Temüjin had inverted the psychology of his enemy, turning their greatest instinct into their greatest weakness. The battlefield was no longer a flat plain, it was an exhaustion funnel. The Tatars thought they were driving the Mongols toward the edge of the world. In reality, they were blinding themselves to the trap, driving their own mounts to the point of mechanical failure. The physical toll of the chase hit a breaking point. The heavy, rhythmic thumping of Tatar hooves slowed to a labored, staggering cadence as their internal engines finally redlined. Men gasped for air inside their stifling helmets, their vision narrowing. The thrill of the hunt soured into a burning agony in their thighs and lungs. Visibility plummeted as they pushed deeper into a valley shadowed by an unnatural, creeping silence. The pursuit was dying. The grizzled Tatar veteran, his horse blowing violently, wiped sweat from his eyes, expecting to see the fleeing Mongols scattering over the horizon. Instead, the fleeing shadows ahead began to slow. The chaotic screaming of the Mongol retreat abruptly ceased. The Mongols hadn't panicked. They hadn't broken. They had just hit the brakes. With terrifying, synchronized precision, the fleeing vanguard wheeled around. They were no longer a disorganized retreat, they were the hardened center of a crescent moon. The veteran pulled his exhausted horse up, a final, horrifying realization gripping his throat. As he looked to his left and then to his right, the dust settled, revealing the true scale of the disaster, the low ridges they had ignored hours ago. The shape of the horizon was moving inward. The first horn echoed across the valley, then a second, then a third. Suddenly, the horizon erupted. What the Tatars thought were empty ridgelines exploded into life as tens of thousands of fresh Mongol riders surged over the crests. The fleeing army had never been fleeing at all. Every mile of retreat had been another stroke in a trap they couldn't yet see. The hidden flank swung shut with the terrifying precision of a massive pincer, sealing the kill zone. To the breathless Tatar veteran, the world dissolved into a blur of kinetic horror before the sky went black. The exhausted vanguard tried to wheel around, but their armored horses were completely blown, trapped in heavy iron barding after a miles-long sprint. They couldn't charge. They couldn't retreat. They couldn't even regroup. There was no grand melee, just the terrifying mechanical hiss of a gale of arrows descending from all sides. Trapped inside a shrinking crescent of mounted archers, they were no longer an army, they were targets. In a matter of minutes, the most feared cavalry on the steppe collapsed under the weight of its own breathless momentum. From a distant ridge, Temüjin watched the brutal payoff of his stratagem. He had not built a physical fortification to stop the enemy. He had built it out of their own ego. By feeding their arrogance, he had forced a massive war machine to overheat and seize up, and then he dismantled it. The Mongols didn't just defeat the Tatars, they turned the once invincible vanguard into a suffocating cage of fallen iron. Temüjin had never needed to overpower his enemy. He only needed them to believe victory was already theirs, burying a decades-long blood feud forever in the dust. The primary sources, immortalized in the secret history of the Mongols, record this tactical masterstroke at the Kerulen River as the definitive death knell of the Tatar Confederacy. It was the moment Temüjin proved that psychological manipulation was a sharper weapon than brute force. The bluff of weakness had drawn them in. Their own overheated engines caused the fatal hesitation, and the Crescent snare delivered the total collapse. The blueprint for the greatest contiguous empire in military history had just been drawn. When the chaos finally subsided, the wind howling across the vast Mongolian plateau carried no triumphant songs, only the hollow quiet of a vanished era. The Kerulen River flowed on, indifferent to the generations of vengeance settled upon its banks. It leaves us with a haunting reality of the war room. Massive force is breathtakingly fragile when blinded by its own hubris, and the silent earth will always outlast the iron we spill upon it.